Hi guys, welcome to Extra Talk today with Sam and Papimento. Before we start today's discussion, Sam, on behalf of We Talk, we want to congratulate you on becoming featured writer on Kingsland Town.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations, mate.
Cheers. Thank you.
And for the people that haven't seen you before, because you've been on the channel before, aspiring journalist, you write for Kingsland Town, I think a local football club, is that correct?
Yeah, play in the National League, so fifth tier of English football, but yeah, local team to me.
Yes, and you're also a co-writer and also part of All About Ajax.
Yeah, for sure.
Very good. All right, Papimento, we're going to start with you. So today's discussion, 7 players, the Telegraaf. Everybody knows the Telegraaf in Holland. Very big sports news about Ajax. They have always the latest about Ajax to tell. So last week they came with 7 players of Ajax that might or most likely will leave Ajax this summer. So let's run through those names today, and I want your take, whether you agree or not, and how you see it. So let's start with Papimento. Let's kick off. The first name on the list, Andre Onana. So about Onana, what's really funny about Onana is that today also, this is being recorded on Tuesday, we heard that he's going to leave either way. So tomorrow, on Wednesday, there is an appeal. Everybody know about that, and we'll see if the sentence could be reduced. It will take some time before we know this, by the way. But we all thought, okay, maybe he's gonna, extend his contract. Maybe we'll see Onana back again at Ajax. But it seems like he might be, or most likely he will be leaving this summer. Arsenal is being named, and the only difference will be if the sentence is reduced, then we get more money. If not, then he might leave for 2 million. So what's your take on that one, Papimento?
I mean, we already knew he was leaving, right? So he didn't renew his contract with Ajax. I'm really sad about this because I love Onana. If you know me, you know that he's been great for Ajax, best keeper we've had in the last 20 years, I think. So yeah, one of my favorites. And I'm sad just how it's ending, him being banned and not being able to play for most of this season, not renewing his contract, and now going to Arsenal for a steal. I mean, it's a risk from Arsenal side as well, of course, let's be honest, because you never know how a player comes back from not training for so long, not playing for so long, and what kind of mental state he is in. But yeah, as an Ajax fan, I would love to keep him. I love Onana, and yeah, big fan of Onana. So, and it's not even, if I must compare it, for instance, with Brobbey, I think Brobbey was worse for me than what Onana did. So I can live with that a little bit more, just of the success he had with Ajax and what he brought Ajax in recent years.
All right, I'll react to that in a bit. Sam, what's your take?
Yeah, so Onana is definitely a sad story, I think, for all Ajax fans, because he was so popular with Ajax fans for so many years. And I think the nice thing about him is obviously when we had the Champions League run, he stayed around, him and Tagliafico and maybe Neres, when they almost definitely had a chance to leave, I can imagine, last summer and the summer before that. And they decided to stay with the club. And he's been a really good player for us. But I think the main thing I always worried about when this ban came around in January for the first time was, would we have someone, ready to take his place? And at the time I thought, no, we don't. We have to sign someone. Well, actually, Stecklenburg's been fantastic. I'd actually say since January, with maybe Martinez, he's probably been one of our best players at the club. So I'm not too worried about him leaving. It's just more of a sentimental, just what he brought, all the great memories that he's brought since 2016, maybe around then when he joined us, a few years, maybe either side. I can't remember exactly when he joined, but he brought so many great memories, and he was such a great player. My only concern for Onana himself is whether he'll actually play at Arsenal, if that is where he goes, because obviously they've got Bernd Leno, who's a very good goalkeeper himself. So, as an Ajax fan, I'm sad to see him go if he does go. It does seem quite likely that he will. But yeah, I have faith that we will be able to replace him in Stecklenburg for a little while, and then maybe it will be all right sort of after that. But yeah, it's definitely a sad one to take, but I reckon he probably will go this summer.
Okay.
Can I react to that?
Sure, go.
Yeah, I just want to say I think Onana in prime form, how he was at Ajax, he puts Bernd Leno on the bench. So just his football skills next to his keeping skills is already better than what Leno would be, just in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good move from Arsenal, getting him very cheap, and it's low risk, right? So, but the competition will be high for Leno. I mean, the mistakes he made with Arsenal this season would be punished with an Onana in the backup.
All right, so let's take it back to Ajax for a minute, because
Yeah.
I really think you guys are very mild, in my opinion. Look, I love Onana. I really love Onana a lot. I mean, he's one of my favorite players at Ajax, always has been. But this doesn't sit well with me, and I will tell you why. I mean, let's be honest. At the end of the day, he made a mistake, whether it's intentional or not. We all think it's unintentional, so we'll go with that, and I believe him also. But he made a mistake. So he makes a mistake, and that mistake has very big consequences for Ajax, not only for him, but also for Ajax, because I'm getting it now to Ajax. I know it's very harsh for him as well, but let's talk about Ajax. So what's happening? He cannot play for a year. What happened in that 6 months? I mean, Sam, of course, Stekelenburg was goalkeeper for most of the time, which he did very well. But that one time that Stekelenburg was not there, we played against Roma.
Yeah.
Scherpen was there. I'm not gonna blame Scherpen. He's a young goalie. And just to talk about Scherpen,
You are gonna blame Scherpen. He made a big mistake, and that cost us the game.
Yeah, but hold on.
In Roma. So yeah,
all right.
You can just be honest, right?
You're gonna blame him. You can talk in a minute. Let me finish about Scherpen. Scherpen was basically rotating with Kotarski in the young Ajax. Yeah, and that was also something that was not planned, because the plan was that one of them would play at young Ajax, the other one will be loaned out. So what happened was they had to rotate, which is not good for a goalkeeper. We all know that goalkeepers need to have, rhythm, play a lot, get some experience. So I don't blame Scherpen like Papimento does, but that's not the point. The point is that, and I'm going for a stretch here, but it's still because of what happened to Onana, we came into this situation and we lost the game. You can say we missed a lot of chances. I agree with all that, but also we made a very big mistake, and we actually lost by 1 goal. And that goal was crucial. So coming back, taking that into account and looking at the future of Onana. So Onana can leave Ajax for probably 2 million if the sentence doesn't get reduced. I mean, for a goalkeeper that of course he has given us a lot, but let's not forget how much Ajax has given him as well. And the fact that he's leaving like this, for me, is very disappointing. And that's the only thing that doesn't sit well with me. And I think, he's Onana is known to be a very proud player, a proud person, individual, And and everybody loves him at Ajax, why would you choose to leave Ajax like this? That would be my question. I mean, you can still extend your contract for a year, and leave if that's really what you want. But at least you show some appreciation to the club, to the fans, to Ajax. But I don't think that's the case right now. So how do you guys see that? I'll go with Sam first.
Yeah, I think you make a good point. It doesn't sit right in the way that it's at. It just seems to come around so quickly. I don't necessarily agree with his decision to sort of necessarily treat the club in the way that he has done. I mean, his options, if he stays and takes this ban, I guess, is just sit on the bench and, just kind of watch the rest of next season and maybe play a couple of games at the end. But, if that's the decision he's making, then, I guess, we can't do much about it. We just have to sort of sit and appreciate what he's done for us. But yeah, you definitely make a good point that, the terms of how he's leaving aren't pleasant at all. And it's such a shame that with all the memories and everything he's done for the club, and everything, as you say, that the club's done for him, that it ends this way. But yeah, it's definitely not it's definitely one of the weirdest situations I think I've ever seen in football. And it's such a shame that it's happening with one of our, if not the best goalkeeper we've had in a long, long time.
Look, Onana for me, and the same would go for other players that are at Ajax. Some wanted to leave already. and that this happened. Yeah, he could be loyal to Ajax, but it's not. It was already clear to us that he wanted a next step and he wanted to leave us. That this happened, yeah, it ruined our season a bit in the European League. You could blame Scherpen for that mistake. I mean, I'm not going to be harsh. He came in at the last minute, but he made that mistake, and Tadic missed the penalty. So we can be harsh on everything that happened, but it's also football. It's it's all about moments, and it didn't work out for us against Roma. But you can't really blame Onana for that. I think Stekelenburg did great, and yeah, he got injured before that Roma game. I just think, if you balance it out, Onana has been very important for us. And of course, it doesn't sit well with me the way it's ending. But I cannot forget all the good things he brought us as well.
All right. Listen, I just want to tell the viewers, they can also react. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think of the situation with Onana, but also the players that we're going to discuss also. So that was the first one on the list. Let's move to the second one, which is also an interesting one, Mazraoui. So Mazraoui, actually a first team player, a regular player, if he's not injured. That's the main thing with Mazraoui. He has a history of being injured. Sometimes, like what happened this year, the eye injury, something you don't really see coming. And he was out for quite some time. But if he plays, if he's fit, if he's match fit, my opinion is it's a really good player for us, for Ajax. But it looks like, he has a 1-year contract left on with Ajax. And they have started negotiations. There are rumors that possibly he's asking for more salary, and maybe Ajax doesn't want to go that far. So he might be leaving as well. I'll go with Sam for this one. Your first take.
Yeah, so this one with Mazraoui, again, this one is a difficult one because he does have a year left on his contract. And ever since he came into the club, well, into the first team anyway, he was always competing with someone in that right back position, but he always sort of came out on top, in my opinion. I think when Dest went to Barcelona, I think we got the better end of the bargain there by keeping Mazraoui, because he was so good in the Champions League run, and he's been really good ever since. And to see him go, it's one of those where you decide whether you would rather him stay for another year and let him go for a free, or you sell him for 10 or 15 million euros, which I think is being discussed with Arsenal potentially at the moment. And, it's a difficult one in the sense of, because we do have Timber, we do have Devin Reinsch, excuse my pronunciation if I've got that wrong. But we do have players, who can cover in the position, as we've seen so far this season. But that's not to take away from his quality, what he offers to the club. I'd rather him stay, but in terms of comparing, letting him go for free next summer or getting some money, I think maybe the 10, 15 millions may be quite good. It's nowhere near what he's worth, but given the circumstances, I think it may be better to accept that sort of deal than sadly let him go for a free next summer.
You know me, Juan. I love News, man. News has been great for us, even though he's 23, still a young player. He's been with Ajax for a long time. And even when he came from young Ajax, he was like, it wasn't even sure he would get a contract, remember? and he still managed to get in that first team. And the levels he got to, like the moment Real Madrid, saving the ball on the line, getting that Tadic goal, and I remember his game against Bayern Munich. Man, he reached some great levels. Yeah, it sucks that he's injured a lot, but I do think if we want to go far in the Champions League, we need to consider depth. It's good to have somebody like that, and it's good to have a backup like Wrench. I just don't think Sean Kleiber would be sufficient for a Europa League or a Champions League level. That's my honest opinion. So for me, rather keep him for that year. I know they want to cash in, but if it's only for 10 million, I'll rather him go transfer without a contract as a free agent to somebody else. And but at least this season, we would still enjoy his skills and maybe get far in a European League.
How do you guys think about, let's say, I mean, it's rumors, of course, but let's say that Mazraoui is asking for more money for the contract extension. I mean, how do you guys view that? Sam, you can go first. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't know.
No, I didn't specify. I'm sorry. Go
That's
ahead.
okay. If it is asking for more money, I mean, he has done a lot for the club. He's arguably one of the sort of better players in the team, given what he's done for us over the last couple of years. So it's understandable why he's asking that, especially if he's being offered that sort of money at Arsenal. But I can understand from our side of things why we maybe can't afford to meet his demands. But I can certainly understand why he's asking for it, given the sort of levels that he's reached over the last couple of years, because he's definitely warrants that sort of asking price.
Hands down, the best right back in the Eredivisie.
Yeah.
And he can compete with every right back in Europe. So for me, depends on how much the salary is, really. Like if it's in a decent range, yes. Is it really like crazy numbers? Then of course no, because we're still Ajax and we have to consider our budget. But if I think Ziyech was making what, 4 million at Ajax, I don't think Mazraoui is even close to coming to that kind of salary. So I mean, you have to consider his skill, man, and his skill can be very great. And we saw that in the first half of the season. Is just sucky that in the second half of the season he was injured so much.
You know, from Ajax standpoint, the thing is, you know that he's a very good player. I think there is no doubt about that, you know, from Ajax perspective, and we know this as well as fans. But how much of a guarantee do you know, if you look at history, that he will be able to play a full season? That's the thing, you know. Basically, all right. So okay, let's move to the next player. Let's move to the next player. So Neres, David Neres. So I think everybody basically is not surprised about this name. People think that he might be the one that should be sold this summer. Also because Neres has been in the past linked to other teams outside. But the thing with Neres is, the reason why he's still with us is that he had a very heavy injury, if you can say like this. And he was injured a lot, and that's why he stayed with us. And you know, in the second half of the year, you saw him come back a little bit into his rhythm. We still haven't seen Neres off, you know, like back in the Champions League season, in my opinion. But he has been improving. The question is, you know, the question I want to ask you guys is, okay, yes, you can sell Neres. We need money. I mean, let's be honest, Ajax needs to sell. But wouldn't it be better to just keep him in terms of squad depth, but also in terms of Antony? You know, Antony and him, you know, I mean, I think they have a positive influence on each other, and keeping him might also trigger Antony. And if you take him away, we might buy Kamaldeen. We're not sure about that, so we can do that as well. But I think Neres haven't shown. He still has a lot of potential, in my opinion. He hasn't shown this year. But again, it's my opinion. You guys are the ones that should give your opinion about this. I'll go with Pupimento first on this one.
Look, when it comes to the front line, there's a lot to consider because they also want Traoré gone. We only have Haller, so who will be the backup with also Brobbey gone? Will Tadic go number 9? Then we might need Kamaldeen, Neres, and Antony for a rotation. We don't have, I mean, if you go, because Traoré is also on the list, so we almost don't have any strikers next to Haller anymore. So what are you going to do as the front line? And that's why I'm saying, like, I'd rather keep Neres. He didn't reach a high level this season, but this might be his season of coming back of a big injury and showing us his potential again. I just don't know if Neres wants to leave. That's the biggest question. But I think he's very good with Antony, and he's happy at Ajax. And I haven't read anywhere that he wants to leave. It was just in the Telegraaf that Ajax would let him go. Personally, if he wants to stay, I would keep.
Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think because he hasn't had the best season this year, I don't really see a potential destination for him because, you know, we're not talking about the same David Neres from the Champions League run. You know, we're talking about a very different player here, as you say. And as we've mentioned, he does have a really good relationship with Antony, which I think will really help. You know, so I think it's probably beneficial both for him and the club that he stays, because I don't think what he's shown over the last year or so, that he's, his value is, high enough to warrant him leaving. Again, I haven't heard anything about him wanting to leave, so I don't really see the point in him going, because I can't see him going to a better club than Ajax and starting. So I think he's definitely better off staying and hopefully developing and showing, exactly what he can do, and sort of glimpses of what he did a few years ago in the Champions League.
Yeah. Bento, would you like to add to that? Or
Yeah, I would also want to consider, because a lot of people say that Neres is not reaching his level, but maybe we're comparing too much with the team that had Ziyech, that had Frankie de Jong, those kind of players that can get you the ball wherever you want on the pitch. And those kind of players we don't have anymore. Maybe Kudus, but definitely not with Klaassen and Alvarez on that midfield. So you have to consider also what you're playing with, That's very important.
look, my thing is with Neres is we cannot be too harsh either, because I mean the first half of the year he wasn't really fit yet, so we only saw him coming back in the second half, I think. Also, Tadic has been put on the left side, the left wing position. That's something that Ten Hag has always advocated for, so I don't think that will change. So what happens basically for Neres is in that 6 months he had to compete with his mate, with Anthony. So he doesn't get full rhythm to play a couple of matches in a row. No, it's always between him and Anthony. And if he comes in, sometimes he's even put on the left side at times, when Tadic goes as a striker. But the problem is that Neres, in my opinion, as well as Anthony, both are better at the right side. So putting everything together, there's still a lot for him that he can show if he has, a little bit more of a run at a position where he's good at, and if he gets more minutes to play from the start of the season. Do you guys agree with me, or you guys see it differently?
Yeah.
Sam, go. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I agree that he hasn't had the sort of time on the pitch to necessarily show, and I think also with it, whenever he does play, he's always the first one to be substituted off, or he will come on for a couple of minutes at the end of the game. So it's definitely a good point, but then it's sort of deciding how you manage that. How are you going to play both Anthony and Neres if they're both suited to one side? And I think if you're choosing between Neres and Anthony, I think 9 times out of 10 you'll probably choose Anthony. So it's deciding, where does he fit into the team? And I don't know if he does when you've also got Anthony in there.
And it might even be more of a situation if we really get Kamaldeen on board as well.
Yeah,
it becomes even more an issue for him. It's good for Ajax to have him, as an extra squad player. But I think he will not be happy not having a lot of because if you get Kamaldeen for 50 million, you're going to play him, basically.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and Bergwijn as well. If he, I don't know how true these rumors are, but another option that Ajax are looking at.
Yep.
I think I read that Bergwijn is not an option anymore. Too expensive.
All right.
Okay.
No, we'll see. All right, guys, moving on to the next player. Let me remind the viewers again, please let us know what you think. Moving to the next one, which is that's absolutely no surprise. I don't think we have a lot to debate about. It's about Nico Tagliafico. We all know he's been, he wanted to leave last year already, but there were not a lot of offers, also because of the Corona pandemic. Now, again, he has been saying a lot during interviews, like if there's a nice team coming, I'll leave. But he has stated that he's happy at Ajax. So if nothing happens, there is a small chance, of course. But if nothing happens, he might stay. So how do you guys see that, Pimento?
And I hope nothing happens. But we already seen that he's been linked with Leeds and some Italian clubs. So the chance is high that he's going to leave, but you would never want to lose somebody like Tagliafico. And you're losing next to Mazraoui, next to Onana, another great experienced player in your team. And you don't know how you're going to cope next season, bridging the gap with other players. You just don't know what's coming back for it. So yeah, I'm kind of worried when I see these kind of names leaving, because they were so important for us, and those are not players you just easily replace, So yeah, with Nico, with Noos, with Andre, I feel sad that they're leaving.
Yeah. Sam, if I can just add something before you give your opinion.
Yeah.
Pimento. The thing is also that last year or past season, Mark Overmars said it's a bridge year, you know? And now we're talking about players that have been with the team for quite some time, and there's a good chance they will leave. How much will next season not be a bridge year, you know? Because if you replace those players, we're not gonna find the same players at the same level. We're gonna buy younger players, younger versions, and try to bring them to that level, you know? So I'm a bit confused here. How do you see that?
Yeah, I don't know how I see that either, really. I think just talking about Tagliafico, firstly, you know, obviously he's brought so much to the club over the last couple of years. I've never seen someone so small win so many headers. Like, it's remarkable what he's done. Like, it's mind blowing. But you know, I understand him leaving. I understand him wanting to go. I think it's going to be difficult trying to figure out who replaces him, you know, and how we try and sort of go on, really, because we don't really have anyone in the club who's, you know, an out and out left back. We've got Martinez who can play there. We've got Daley Blind, but, you know, neither of them, in my opinion, are good enough, you know. So, I mean, let's talk about Owen Wijndal joining from AZ Alkmaar. I personally really like him. When he played against Ajax this season, he was probably their best attacking player, which says a lot. You know, it was their left back. So he, for me, would be the perfect replacement if Nico does go. But yeah, all in all, it'd just be really sad where he goes. But obviously, I want to see him do well as with Ziyech and Van der Beek and all the other players. But I think we're just starting to see the end of that generation of players that we had over the last couple of years.
Yeah. All right. So let's move to the next player. We still have 3 to cover. The next player is Traoré. So the strange thing about Traoré, in my opinion, before you guys react, is that he has been given a lot of playing minutes in this first half of the season. And to be honest, I mean, everybody's looking at that, you know, VVV game, the 0-13 or 0-13, which is not, of course, he scored so many goals there. But for me, he made an impression on me when we played against Atalanta away. I thought he was one of the best players on the pitch, and I'm not exaggerating. Both defensively and his work rate offensively was amazing. And I really thought, you know, for the first time, I thought, oh, this guy has really something, you know, because you see him sometimes play at Young Ajax. But I mean, at Young Ajax, you see him play, you see some things, but he never gave me that impression that he gave me against Atalanta. So I was very optimistic. But then he got injured, you know, going into the second half of the season. And then we never heard of him. We only saw him play at Young Ajax, and now apparently he's on the list to leave. So how do you guys see that? Popimento?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I've been thinking about this for days. A lot of people just written him off, and I just don't understand why. Yeah, he's a young player. He still needs to learn his positioning in the box. He's not the most clinical player in front of the goal, but he did give us some performance in the first half of the season where I thought, wow, man, if you continue to change your play a little bit,
yeah,
and just learn a couple of, like, you know, striker moves that would make you just a little bit better and a little bit more attentive in the box, that would make him such a better striker. But he was there in the link-up play. He was bringing the energy. He was fighting with the big defenders, you know, for every ball. And I love to see that. So for me, I think we're saying bye to Traoré too soon. I don't see also too many options next to Haller if he leaves. So are we getting a striker back for him? If not, just keep him. He's still young. He can still develop. I mean, we saw what kind of level he can bring versus Atalanta, but also I think against Liverpool, he wasn't that bad either. I think we've written him off too soon, and he didn't come back right from his injury. I give the other people that. Second half of the season, even at Young Ajax, he wasn't great. But choosing Brobbey constantly over him doesn't give you the motivation either to show yourself. I mean, that was just a slap in the face, in my opinion.
All right. Sam, how do you view this?
Yeah, the situation with Traoré is sad, really, because I thought, you mentioned the Atalanta game, and that's where I thought, he's really going to sort of go on from this. He's going to have a really good career. And it seemed like the only thing that stopped him was an injury around sort of Christmas time, I think. But before that, he was playing pretty much every game. He was playing really well. And in Europe, we were definitely a worse team when he wasn't on the pitch, especially in the Champions League. I thought we really missed that sort of physical presence. And I almost sort of gave us no chance when he wasn't on the pitch. It was weird because at the start of the season, when he was being involved in the first team, I thought, why is he here? He's, doesn't really offer much. He's, all he's got is his strength and his physicality. But as the first half of the season went on, I thought, actually, if you ignore the VVV game, he was really good. He was involved in a lot of the chances. Okay, he did miss quite a lot, but he was involved and he was creating a lot of chances, not just for himself, but for other players with his hold-up play. The only thing I'm asking, and this is a question really to you guys, is do we not have a player on loan at FC Twente, Danilo?
Yeah.
I hear he's had a really good season. I don't know if he's there for an extra year after this season. I may be wrong, but is he not a player that we should be looking at bringing into the first team for next season? But that's a question for you guys.
Well, what I know about this is that not too long ago, Ten Hag reacted on this, and he said that basically they will welcome Danilo to the training, the off season or the preseason training. I'm sorry. And then they will look at, the training in general, and then they will decide how things will go. So he might be included in the team next season. That's a possibility. Or they might sell him to another club. So we have to wait and see. But the thing with Danilo is, I think he's a very technically gifted player. I think he has really something. He has shown at Twente, especially in the first half of the season, he showed really some good quality stuff. I just don't know if he fits to play in the Ajax system as a striker. That's the only thing I'm doubting. But maybe Ajax has other plans, I just have a bit of doubt. But it's a good point. It's a good point.
Yeah, you make a good point, Juan. That's exactly what I wanted to say. I think, at Twente, you play defensively. So in a counter-attack situation with his speed, he can be very useful. I just don't think he will be a starter at Ajax. For somebody that played a whole year as a starter at Twente, will you accept the role of being a striker that only comes in when you're in front and you get more room and you're counter-attack based, because Haller is going to be your first striker? Yeah, if he can accept that role, why not? He can be our Brobby that is leaving anyway, so he could fulfill that role. But I just don't see him as the main striker when we play on the half of the opponent and he has to play in a small area of the pitch. I think he lacks that quality.
You know what it is? I just want to also add to what Papimento said. The thing is, if we look at the striker position, I think the best way to have that striker position filled as a squad is what we had at the beginning of the season. So basically, we had a young player, actually we had two. We had also Brobby, but he came later. But at the start of the season, we had a young player as in Traoré. Then we had, like an older player, Klaassen. And then you have like a primary striker or a striker. Okay, we paid a lot of money for him, but he's the first pick, and that's Haller. So basically, in my opinion, you should have three different type of strikers. You should have a veteran. You should have the one that plays most of the time, that is basically the starting 11 player, or the one that has most quality to play full matches. And then you have a young one that's close to the others and needs to develop to, like after some time, become a starting 11 player. But the thing is, with that young player, he has to be also able to play at young Ajax, because young players need rhythm. They need to play. So then I start thinking about Danilo. There is no reason for Danilo to come in and see Haller play in front of him, and he's not going to play for young Ajax. So that would be a waste, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So you guys decided. All right. Yeah. We move to the next one. All right, let's move to the next player.
And by the way, you said Klaassen, but I think you meant Tadic, right? As a striker. Klaassen is not really the striker. So.
I'm sorry, I meant Huntelaar. I said Klaassen.
Oh, Huntelaar. Okay.
Sorry for that. Thank you for correcting me. I meant Huntelaar. All right, guys. Next one on the list is Kjell Scherpen. Interesting one. We talked about him before in the Onana situation or in an Onana case. So Scherpen, look, Scherpen has everything basically to become one of the best goalkeepers. I mean, if you only look at him physically, he's very impressive. He has been playing a lot with young Ajax, getting there, you know, playing when we bought him from Emma, especially getting better at, you know, with his feet, because that was an issue. And getting more confidence, because that's also an issue with Scherpen. And we saw it also in the Roma game. Look, he's young. He's 21. I think he's 21. And the question is now that we saw a couple of weeks ago that Zwolle might be interested in getting him on loan. But then right after we heard that news, we also heard that Brighton is interested to just sign him, you know? And according, again, we come to the Telegraaf, they said like Ajax is willing to sell him to Brighton. So what we should do here, what should we do here? Do you guys see potential in him? Should we keep him? Should we loan him out? Or should we say, no, you know what? We bought you for 1.5 million from Emma. It's a good deal. If we can get 5 million for Scherpen, let's do that. Because we also know that we bought Jay Gorter from Go Ahead Eagles, which is now fresh news. So how do you guys see that? I'll go with you first, Sam.
No, this one really doesn't sit right with me. When he first joined us, I thought, okay, this isn't a player we'll see right away. We'll see him in a couple of years' time. You know, he'll slowly build his way into the first team, probably when Onana leaves. Onana is likely to leave this year. And I don't really get this one. I know, okay, he didn't look particularly confident in that Roma game after the mistake, and that's understandable. So I don't really get this one, especially going to Brighton. I think this is a poor move for him, especially because they've got two really good goalkeepers. The likelihood is he goes there, he's the third choice goalkeeper. Whereas if he stays, you'd imagine he'll be fighting with Stekelenburg, and not only will he be fighting, but he'll be learning from an experienced Dutch international, which I think will be, you know, really valuable for him. You know, someone who's made it, who's been at the, you know, very highest level. It doesn't make sense for Ajax to let him go because because he wasn't very confident, because he made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes, you know, especially goalkeepers. So no, this one doesn't sit right for me. I think he's the perfect build for a goalkeeper. I think he looks like a very talented young player. He just needs a little bit more support and a bit more backing, which he's currently not getting from us.
Pimento, your take on this one?
Yeah, I'm thinking, man. I mean, look, we bought not only a Gorter that is a young player, but we also have Pasveer that's next to Stekelenburg. So we already have 3 keepers. 2 of them are very old. So I don't know how long they can continue at Ajax. So it would be nice to have 2 young keepers there. But I think Scherpen also is done with playing the young Ajax game and just doing the Eerste Divisie, you know. So maybe Brighton would be a step up, and maybe he sees that way. I do think that a keeper is always blamed on his mistake. We saw that also with that Liverpool keeper that made a big mistake in a very important game. And after that, we haven't seen him ever again at Liverpool. I'm not sure what his name was, but the same is with Scherpen. I think if he didn't make that mistake with Roma, we would never consider him settling him to Brighton. But because that happened, the confidence, it will be always like a lack of confidence when he goes back at that goal. So it's better to go for a new adventure.
Sam, what would you do? Would you choose or opt to loan him out for a year? Because like what Pimento said, we have 2 experienced goalkeepers now with Pasveer coming in and Maarten Stekelenburg extending his contract for another year. So wouldn't be this an ideal chance to have Scherpen play at an Eredivisie club at Zwolle in the Eredivisie on a, you know, like weekly basis and get some rhythm going? And then maybe Ajax can also have a better assessment of how he's developing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if he's been playing for the young side, you know, it's not the Eredivisie, it's not the top flight. You know, and considering we bought him for 1.5 million and selling him for 5, there's not much of a profit there. You know, you're better off letting him have an extra year in the top flight, see how he does, and especially if he goes to a team like Zwolle, that's the team he'll really get tested. Okay, at Ajax you don't get tested that much in the Eredivisie. You do a lot more in Europe. But going to Zwolle would be a real good challenge for him. So I'd definitely like to see him sort of stay around for that fighting. And if Pasveer and Stekelenburg, if they potentially retire next year, I'm not too sure what their plans are, but if they look to retire, then he would definitely be in with a good chance of playing for the first team.
Yeah, I believe Pasveer was 2 years. So
yeah, so
yeah.
yeah.
But we never know. And
you can always battle for the spot, right? It's not because they're there you don't have a chance. It's how you develop and how good you are. And maybe we are I mean, being too harsh on Scherpen. He didn't play any games. He didn't have the the confidence, and then he has to play such an important game for Ajax. It can't be easy,
Yeah.
So he's definitely not written off with me, but he needs game time and he needs maybe a loan, but could be a good option. Yeah.
So if I just can summarize both your opinions, the verdict is still out. You guys don't know whether he's good enough for Ajax. We have to see more of him, and a loan would be the best option for both of you. Correct?
Yeah, I
Correct.
definitely. Yeah, I'd say a loan because I mean, you look at Onana; he's made mistakes, here and there. It's the Liverpool game, the second Liverpool game this season. He made a horrible mistake, and he put his hands up and said, "Yeah, that's my fault." But we know that he's a good goalkeeper. We trust him because that doesn't happen very often. But we haven't been able to see that yet with Scherpen, especially at a top flight level. So I think a loan is without doubt the best option for him.
Yeah. All right. So last name on the list for today's discussion, Labyad, Sakria Labyad, the one that was, let's say, hated a little bit in the first half of the season because he got a lot of playing time from Ten Hag, and a lot of Ajax fans didn't understand why. I have to be fair, looking at his stats and his contribution, he has been decent. Looking at that, but I don't think we can argue that Labyad is not really a first team player, but he's more like a squad rotation player for Ajax. But the thing is, he's 28. At this moment, he has, I think, 1 year left on his contract. So how do you guys see it? I mean, is there a debate about this? Any one of you wants to keep him at Ajax?
No, you want to keep him, Sam?
No.
I mean, we've had him for a long time at Ajax. He's okay for the rotation for Eredivisie against maybe 10 to 18 spot teams, but when you go against the big games, I don't see anything useful about Labyad that he could. I mean, yeah, he was important with his goals in the first half of the season, but in Europe, I didn't really see that, to be honest, from him. He didn't even play, I think. So, yeah, not really convinced about him. And he's been so long with Ajax, I thought he would reach a different level. He didn't. So maybe it's a good thing that we part ways.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I was never really a fan of him, like most Ajax fans, and then this year, it didn't really seem like a great idea to play him. And fair play, he did come up with some important goals, and contributed pretty well. But I can't see that lasting. If he stays on next year, I can't see him contributing, especially if Kudos is fit all year, and we'll have Gravenberch and Klaassen, and hopefully Kenneth Taylor plays, and we'll have a few more of the younger players coming in. He's just going to go further down and down that pecking order. I think it'll be a good relief for Ajax fans that he does. But no, fair play to him. He has contributed as and where he, has been able to. But he's, in my opinion, he's not an Ajax player.
All right.
It's crazy. It's crazy to me, Juan, like when we talk about great players and stuff, but always like, Taylor, Kudus, all these players, Klaassen, and then Alvarez is almost always forgotten, but he's the one that cleans up everything.
Yeah.
I wonder how he's going to be like this season, if he's going to be used as much as last season. That's going to be great. And also looking at this list, I don't know if you're going to get 50 million for this. So what else are you going to do to reach the 50 million you need to sell,
Well, if we would sell everyone of in that list, I think we will be close. And not to forget, I don't know if we also took into consideration, Noah Lang, which is sold for 6 million. I don't know if we took into account Marine, who is a guaranteed 10 million sale, which will happen or will be triggered now in the summer as well. So I don't know. I mean, Overmars didn't specify that. I don't know if that's also included in that 50 million that we have to sell. But yeah, I just want to conclude this session, guys. By the way, just asking you one question. Both of you can only give one name of those 7. If there's one player that you would love to keep at Ajax next season of those 7, who would it be? You can only pick one. I'll go with Sam first.
For me, I don't know about Papi, but this one feels quite simple for me. It has to be Tagliafico, purely, for what he's brought to the club. He will be missed, I think, more than any other player. Onana, of course, but I think Tagliafico, it'd break my heart to see him go, as much as it did for Van der Beek when he left, because he was my favorite player. But Tagliafico is a close second. Yeah, so without doubt, it's got to be Nico.
Yeah, I don't want to give the same answer as Sam, so I'm gonna go a different route. I'm gonna go for Noes, because I think he really is a great right back. And Nico has been saying that he wants to leave for a long time, and he's one of the older players. So I also, I want him to have another adventure, and I grant him that because he's been great for Ajax. So I'm gonna go with Noes because that's also a great player for us and the best right back that you can wish for. So.
Guys, be sure to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and most importantly, join the discussion in the comments below.